Amir?
Hey man, how you doing? You good?
I'm good. I've been rushing around trying to find a place to do this, and I'm at my brother's house, uh, up in the mountains.
Alright man, good. In the mountains.
Hmm?
In the mountain.
It's in the foothills. What is this, Prather, Ben? It's Prather. Hey, Rin. Can you hear me? No? No audio?
Hey guys.
You off in space?
Yep.
Okay.
How's everyone doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I I've been trying to figure out the situation with location because my roommates are my roommates, and I don't like to intrude on their stage of development or whatever you want to call it. So if people are home, usually I've done it in the car with my cell phone as the signal, but I'm trying out being at my brother's house for this particular session. So yeah, I need to do a couple other things. There are two other new people that may be trying to join, so I need to find them and make sure I give the link to them before I get going here. Okay, so just you guys can chat if you want while we wait for other people to come in.
Smear, how have you been?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Good to see you again.
Good. Yeah, so I was meaning to. I know I did say I was going to contact you in the week, but I've just been week's been a bit of a strange one for me.
It's been a strange week. How so?
Not strange bad, strange good. I've sort of been in my own head and just yeah.
Yeah. You know what I found at least is that um, when you start noticing the more unusual aspects of human life or existence, then those other aspects can take more notice in you. You can see strange synchronicities amongst other, like esoteric phenomena as well. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so, um, I mean, like, I don't think I actually heard, did you say that you've had any sort of spiritual experiences with, like, because with you said it was relationships and abuse, right?
I've had lots of experiences throughout my whole life, without going into a lot of detail. Supernatural stuff. I've seen things,
Yeah.
experienced things. Um,
Because talking about things like this and actually getting to the bottom, understanding how and why something happened, that usually causes the supernatural aspects to ramp themselves up. So I just thought I'd let you know about that. Um, for example, you might all of a sudden, some people that you knew just won't speak to you at all anymore for reasons that you can't even explain. Okay, I mean, I get that a lot. You'll get people, they will say strange things to you that don't make any sense and won't have anything to do with anything. That's usually the supernatural aspects trying to provoke a response. Um, the general idea is that this is supposed to be for our growth, but we were hit a bit too hard, you know. I mean,
Okay,
what,
sorry, Samir.
you know,
Okay, so this, can you guys see the phone? That's Andrea 919. She's just listening. She's working, but she's just gonna join and listen, I believe. Um, so
hey,
hey,
Andrea.
hi Andrea. We just see your number.
hi
Um,
Andrea.
I'm not sure. I didn't last week. I verified with everybody individually who was going to be joining. I didn't do that this week because this week was insanely busy for me. Um, so I'm not sure who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. But as always, we just go with what's happening here Whoever does show up, then that's what happens, and we go from there.
Now Rebecca's joined.
Rebecca's here. Rebecca's a new member. Hey,
Hey, Rebecca.
you're outside.
Rebecca.
Yes. Can you hear us?
I think she has to put. There's something about a device in audio, and she has to click on that, and then we should be able to hear her.
Is there a setting that you have to do every single time you join? That would be
Yeah,
strange.
so it's device and audio. Otherwise, when you speak, you can't be heard. And I can't hear you.
Yeah, you have to. An option comes up: join meeting in audio. You have to click it every time.
Yeah.
Can you hear that, Rebecca? Can you hear the instructions?
Do you want to send it her, maybe?
Chat. Here we go. So you're saying what again?
Join meeting in audio. It's usually a blue box that you have to click.
So, Rin, how long have you been practicing martial arts?
Probably 15 years.
15 years. Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's been a while.
Okay.
now that is excellent because, as you know, it
That's
takes
not.
eight.
Hey, Monica's here.
I wouldn't say that's a long time.
For me, it was 7 or 8, and then I stopped because, again, you know, like with me, it's like a family member. So there are flaming narcissists, and when they found something that I enjoyed and that I was good at, they would go absolutely nuts, screaming at me about it to stop, and that's what ended up happening.
Monica, can you hear us? Hello? Okay, this is something we need to figure out quite quickly because this is going to take up a lot of time.
Gary, are these recorded and then posted, or is this private?
They are recorded and posted, and that's also probably another topic for discussion or maybe a group vote. The last 2 have been recorded and posted, and they're up. My feeling is that it's good. There are many things that you could do. We could do half of it recorded and posted, and then half of it more private if people want to share things that they don't want all of YouTube to be able to listen to. But as for right now, they are recorded and posted. Monica, can you hear us?
Yes.
And welcome, by the way. I'm glad you finally made it. Being technologically illiterate as most of us are to some extent.
Very great. Can you hear me? I guess you can. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Hello, Monica.
Hi, I'm just going to fix my microphone. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay. Ramo, Omar, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Okay. Andrea is the phone little thing. That's her number. She's just listening. She's working right now, but she's joining via... She's lurking, I guess you would say. Who else? Daniel's going to be on tonight with Guy 3. And who are we missing? Are we missing anybody? Oh, Fabian.
Yes.
Fabian's missing. Otherwise, it's mostly everybody, right? Anyway, so the topic for today that I came up with was that I thought would be good to get out of the way. And it's not going to get out of the way, but struggle, like personal struggle. Because this is something that once you deal with, then you can play afterward. Once you learn how to deal with everything that comes at you. If you can learn how to establish some inner peace, then you can play. You can't really play very well before that. And that's always been my that's been my push. Once I kind of my eyes got opened a little bit, my push has been to figure out what the control structure and my own self in dealing with the control structure, what that really means, and how I can get that to a level to where it's dealt with enough to where I can actually create and play here, because that's what I actually want to do. I don't wish to sit here and fight all the time, but there is some aspect of, you know, being a warrior that everyone here knows about, right? Hey, Fabian. I think this is everybody. Fabian, can you, do you have a voice this time? Okay, Fabian's probably just going to be doing what Fabian always does. But, Monica, would you like to introduce yourself, because you're a bit of a new addition to the group?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be long-winded or anything, just a brief introduction.
I'm Monica. I've always been very interested in this subject that we're dealing with, this reality, where it came from, what it's all about, why I'm here, what's going on. I listened to Og's spiritual evolution last night, and I'd listened to him before years ago. I mean, I was like, I devoured everything he did. And then I got sick and I stopped, and I almost forgotten him for some reason. And then I think Samir, you mentioned him, and I just dug in again last night, and it's like, wow, he answers so many questions I had like all my life. Anyway, that's a bit long for a short answer, but yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Labrador, South, which is a very small, in a small village by the ocean that was very isolated during the winter. So about 200 people, 250 cats, dogs included.
Labrador? What?
That's originally Labrador, Newfoundland. Newfoundland is an island. It's on the extreme east end of Canada, actually.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm living in Quebec. I live in Quebec, yeah.
So you and Fabian are in the same region then?
Yeah, Fabian, where are you from?
Buckingham.
Buckingham.
I think you said Quebec.
Buckingham.
Yeah, Buckingham, Quebec, near Gatineau.
Oh, wow, you're next door. I'm just here in St. Lambert. Hi.
You guys are neighbors.
Yeah. Good to finally be with you guys.
Welcome. Rebecca, do you have audio yet? Can you speak?
I do. Can you? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yes, we can hear
me okay?
you. Yes. So the introduction pillow is passed to you.
I'm Rebecca. I'm here. That's all I'd like to say for now. I'm rather shy, so I'd like to just listen in if that's okay with everyone for now until I get my voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just enjoy seeing the outside view behind you.
Please.
Okay, well that's everything. That's everyone. That's introductions. So, topic of struggle, and also, I know it's a little bit vulnerable feeling sharing anything like it, and most of us are used to having, having issues and problems when trying to discuss what we feel to be that word truth. And that word truth is, of course, an iffy one at best, but I would say maybe we could refine that word to personal truth or subjective truth, or just what we feel, And so please feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable sharing here. It's a pretty welcoming platform for people who have been through the gauntlet, and most of the viewers, most of the people who respond on YouTube are pretty understanding. So please feel free to share and don't hold back. Struggle. Somebody, what's your struggle? What have you been going through recently? Mm-hmm. Fabian?
Yeah, me. Can you hear me? Huh?
Yep, you're cutting in a little bit. You're cutting in and out a little bit, but we'll go for it.
Yeah, me. It's my son that's bothering me. I haven't seen him for like 2 years. His mother is a narcissist. Uh,
You haven't seen him at all for two
we,
years? No contact?
no, I haven't seen him in all of 2 years.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I go through the same thing. I see my kid once a week.
And because dog kind of thing.
What's that?
I've seen mine like that, like for a while back, but as he was getting older, she was like,
Connection issues, huh?
just portraying me as bad and
Fabian has some connection issues, but what he's talking about is the whole thing of being separated from your kids via the system. And I've gone through the same thing with my own child. And the only way I've been able to see him is by not saying anything. So, and I've also had pressure. I've also had pressure coming on me to stop doing these kinds of things. So, the whole, the whole, and it's not a direct thing. Like it's not like someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we are the governing, thing, and you're not to be talking like this." And we're gonna exert force if you continue. It's not like that. It's not any concerted, very overt thing. It's a very much internalized, and it's via. It's difficult to pin down what it is that's actually wishing to suppress, but it does come out. Like, for instance, when I was doing that 30 and 30 thing, my child was being attempted to be taken away from me during that, and that actually the things that were involving him stopped the 30 and 30 thing. I stopped doing that directly because he was trying to be taken away from me, and then that situation got resolved. But I could clearly see the interplay between the world that wishes to stay slumbering and asleep and the world that is attempting to emerge. I clearly saw that. And
It's
go ahead, Samir.
yeah, I've noticed it's a very stark issue, and since you said don't hold back, we've got the hive mind involved here. You've got the jinn. You've got tulpas and thought forms. There's the technological harassment and gang stalking. All of this and growing human consciousness. Some people waking up. Others absolutely determined to have nothing to do with anything that might resemble reality or logic or evidence. You've got like corporations that do things in other countries that also own the news companies, which the sheep go to, and they watch the news to be told what's going on around the world. When it's the same people, it's like the thief who owns television stations, and then you expect it to tell you what's actually going on, through the media. It's a level of insanity which is staggering to me, and I think all of this is going on at the same time as rapid technological development as well.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of emergent things that are they're all coinciding right now. Like, lots of things are coinciding, especially at this particular time. And I made the video about 2020 a couple days ago, and a lot of people were responding saying astrologically it's very significant. as well as there have been lots of predictions surrounding 2020. 2020 itself means clear vision. There are lots of coinciding thought forms surrounding this particular time space, and energetically, I felt it in my own personal life, in my own sort of bringing the financial situation to a somewhat consistent. I haven't had any financial consistency for the last 2 years. I've been semi-homeless. I've been sleeping out of the car, and I have finally found a bit of financial security. Andrea as well, along with me, and it's a bit of a balancing act to keep one foot in that sort of normal world where money comes in regularly and you're able to be okay financially for a bit, and then have the other foot in the other world, which is sort of interdimensional everything. And you can see how the interdimensional side has its sort of fingers into this world, which pretends to be just life as normal, even though it really hasn't ever been life as normal. Once you get into it, if you look back into the childhood, you see it has never been that.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's a big, like, you have to be gentle with yourself and with everybody else that is still asleep, because it's very traumatic coming out of that. It's traumatic once you're out of it, and you're never really completely out of it as long as you're still here. So it's just a balancing act.
That is, and it's.
Omar?
I was just going to say, I just say that I've noticed that the hive mind is very strong. It seems more condensed, stronger. There's more of a contrast between. I find the pressure is on us, me, to conform. I've noticed it, and it's very squeezing me personally in my private life very strongly. It's just multiplied the contrast. I've noticed between, It's very difficult to get away from. Like, it's just like everyone just grasping. You've got to get into this hive. You have to be on the Facebook. You have to, because you have to. If not, there's cut off from family. It's amazing, the hive mind. It's so, you have to be so aware at all times. Keep your head.
Gary, what I was going to add is that's something that's difficult with that is when you're talking on Facebook and posting about these topics, or one of us will be talking about something. You can't really pick your audience. So when you say something to share with other people, it might be really upsetting to somebody who isn't aware of that, or is just coming into an awareness of a certain topic. And something I've noticed that tends to hold me back sometimes, and have to pick and choose where I reply, is I'll get a lot of people that are upset about a certain thing I'll post, and then they go off and have a whole discussion without me, because I don't want to say what I know, because I would be there for like 2 weeks answering questions, or
right
comforting people about something,
right.
And so that's difficult too, and that's a whole nother level in the process of us as a species becoming aware of what's actually here. And I think that work is best done alone, but in a collaborative sense, it is very helpful at times.
Yeah, it's it's something that we find as we try to share, as we attempt to share what we're going through. We find that there's a vast gradient of consciousness. It's one side is over here, and there's one side way over here, and these two polarities cannot even speak to each other or see each other. Once you come in, then you have, say, what we're doing here, maybe right here, and then we have this sort of regular people who know a little bit or have seen a little bit, and then these here have a little bit of connection and they can talk to each other, but there still will be arguments and infighting and things like that. But then the real thing is really, it's way out here and way out here.
And that's why it's so weird when somebody says, I stand for absolute truth. I'm interested in learning the truth. There is no such thing. It's so nebulous.
That's one of the first steps is learning that. That's the baby step. They're literally, there's like a kindergarten phase where one of the things you learn in kindergarten is that there's no absolute truth, and that's once you have to get past that. That's something that once you get past, you can start speaking. Like you can start saying like, okay, so everything's subjective, but it's also bubble-fied. Everyone has their subjective bubble, and then those interrelate depending on frequency. You know, it's a baby step.
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest issues I have with interacting with the people who identify ideologically with the truther movement, is because one of the fundamental tenets of being a truther is you stand for absolute truth. And it's very much of a stalwart in your progression of your understanding of these larger concepts. Mm-hmm. So it's very frustrating to interact with them because I'd like to help, but I can't.
Well, if you can't get past fundamental...
Until they get past it.
Yeah, if you can't get past that fundamental thing we just talked about, which is there is no absolute truth. And, of course, that is in itself a thing that you choose to hold on to or not. But if you can let go of that, then the moderating factor in interpersonal relationships becomes your internal ability to let that person be as they are. That becomes the moderating factor, and that's what we call being empathic, being empathetic, being understanding, being compassionate, etc. When you have such a gradient of consciousness, that is a necessary ingredient, especially when you have technological interference, like what Samir talks about. You have the TI, etc.
Yes, absolutely. And the problem that I have is wanting to help and knowing that they're going to forget and trying to track them so I can come back to the point where I realize they're ready for the next bit of information.
I don't think that would be your...
It's not, but people seem to like putting me in that position, so I've grown accustomed to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to serve in that fashion without letting all your energy get taken away, then sure, that's great.
Yeah, to a degree, and so that's been a struggle I've had over the last 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. Is figuring out what that balance looks like.
Whoa.
Somebody's pocket just vibrated.
Uh-huh. Maybe that was Andrea contributing.
Her computer said, yes!
Ren, do you have anything to say with regards to these particular waters?
Sorry, did you say me?
Yeah.
I'm just...
You're just listening.
I'm just listening for the moment, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. And also, for instance, we did one of these last week, right? This was 7 days ago. To me, like, that was so long ago. And something that I've had... Okay, we're still speaking of struggle, right? Something I've had problems with is something that I used to call, in a few videos back, I called it the 70-year plan. And that's societal mind. Societal mind has a structure, and it has birth, elementary school, high school, college, work, retirement. Okay, that's the 70-year plan mental model that most of the people who are in the hive mind are sort of going by. And when you come out of that to an extent, you see immediately that in one 24-hour period, you could accomplish so many things, or you could travel, or you could mentally fly off somewhere and come back. You could explore a whole universe within that time period very easily. But then when you can compare it to the mental form that does the outside world, they don't compare very well, and you have to constantly flip-flop back and forth between that time understanding, that referential, self-referential, like this, a day has passed, a week has passed, a month has passed, and so on. Yeah, the wristwatch.
It helps not having one.
And I remember Jazz. I don't know how many of you know of Jazz Sinclair. A couple of you probably have heard of him, but he said at one point he removed himself from the timekeeping system. He was just out, like taking care of a barn or something, out in the middle of nowhere, no clocks, no nothing. His internal time schedule was regulated by the sun coming up and the sun going down. and he was in that for like 2 months, and he said everything completely changed. Like he actually got to know his own body rhythms, his natural sleep cycle, what the circadian rhythm actually is, and how that affects his consciousness. And he was completely transported just by virtue of being away from the time schedule for a couple months.
Absolutely. The only reason I know that this meeting was happening was because I was expecting it to happen and I was watching for it. But I very much do the same thing in that I'm lucky enough that I'm able to sleep whenever I need to sleep, eat whenever I need to eat, and I don't ever look to see what time it is. I really don't care because I've found that everything works much better when I'm not paying any heed to that.
Mm-hmm. It does, but most of us can't do that because the old money system is still around, and as far as I can see, that's only there to limit people's movement into a very specific container. And it's not natural for the body to get up at the same time for 5 days a week and go sit and do the same repetitive motion for 8 hours a day and then go to sleep. And then, of course, medication is needed because of the unnaturalness of that. It's not, our body rebels against it.
So, Gary, I was thinking, would you like to talk about the blindness, the very specific blindness that the other, the 90% seem to have regarding, like, the central bank problem that we have, in which the central bank of the country doesn't actually belong to that country. It belongs to foreign interests. And then we are paying interest on the loans of our own money. And half of our workday is actually taken up paying interest on the loans to, Gary, you disappeared. Are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm still here, yeah.
And that half of our working day, I calculated this, at least half is actually spent paying interest on. So, for example, American money is not produced by Americans. It is loaned to the American people. Their own money is loaned to them, and they have to pay an interest on their own money to other people. And why I don't understand, why do people put up with that? Why don't they just say, we're like, and this is the same in every country, pretty much, except Iran.
Iceland apparently kicked the international bankers out.
Say, this is our money, the American dollar is our money, and we won't pay interest on our own money.
I know.
Why don't they do that? I don't understand.
I'm going to say instinctually, Samir, that's because they don't want anything to do with it, but they don't know any other way. Because of absolutely everything you said is correct. Out of every $1 that's produced, 99.998% of that is absolutely net zero. There's no worth whatsoever. The only way the entire system holds itself together mathematically at all is even possible is that 0.02%. That is the leeway in the mathematical model that presents itself so the money system is able to actually maintain some sort of order. Otherwise, it would not exist. It would literally implode and cross the wire in math terms and be unable to sustain itself. Yeah. So the problem you have is, how do you get people to realize that what they've been doing is wrong? Most of them realize it instinctively, but then from there, where do you go to build a system that uses sustainable, tangible things? Like if I made these, and I knew somebody who had 100 people that wanted these, how would I trade these for bags of rice so I could cook? And who would I get the propane from? And these types of thoughts are very much removed from our socio-cultural fabric. Over the last 3,000 years, we're not allowed to have the leeway to move through the tapestry of the world in a way that we're self-reliant or even group-reliant. So that's, I think, the biggest issue is jumping from that what we have now to being able to cooperate in a way where society doesn't shear itself to bits and have a peaceful time.
Yeah, because I was thinking about you can call it Room 101. So all of us know about Room 101. It's why doesn't everybody see the psychopathic narcissist? When he tells a lie, usually most of us here are probably the scapegoats, you know? And we look at everybody else and we're like, how can they not see this person is lying? It's so obvious. And it's Room 101 that maybe we've got less of, we're more aware of, maybe we're newer additions. Can people hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we're newer additions to the human species and everybody else has been soul and trained. I'm not sure. But I would look around me and I realized it's this Room 101 in George Orwell's book. There's something that people just don't want to know about. It's not true. It's not happening. It's not there. Done. Period. End of story. And I wanted to know, what is this Room 101? How the F can we get people to open their Room 101 in their minds, they stop doing stupid things, and we can go about and have a normal, sensible society?
Maybe because they're programmed and they don't know they can't be anything else. Right?
You'd have to empower. You'd have to empower the human mind to be comfortable looking at something that it automatically edits out for its own survival instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So through knowledge, you can get.
Or at least why do we not have as much?
We do that because that is extra information that the brain filters out so it can survive. Because it's.
But we're different. Why are we different?
Because we have a wider latitude of filtering. We can see more only because we got curious, and that question became important to us, and we assigned priority to understanding why.
Or maybe because we are truth. And we know truth because we recognize truth, because we are truth. We come from that original.
Yeah, Org was talking about that, wasn't he? He's talking about.
Judge Dog, he just covers so much, you know. But I know that's, for sure he would say that. That would be his basis, yeah.
Because if you found a way to demolish people's Room 101, all this rubbish about stealing children through the court system, completely ignoring evil when it's totally in people's faces. It's Room 101. It's the central problem to humanity. If we manage to get away for people to just stop doing stupid, cowardly things and pretending like they're not doing that, we would have no issues. 80% of crime would disappear without that George Orwell's Room 101.
Hey, you guys, sorry, Samir, we're coming to the end of the free meeting, so like last time, I'm just going to end the meeting and I'm going to restart it again and send everybody the link again if you don't mind taking one moment to do that.
Can I shoot like a 20-second thing about what he said in here?
Yeah, we still have 2 minutes.
Okay. So these are all fundamental precipices on issues that are caused by the planetary quarantine that we've had for the last 250 million years.
Yeah.
Hold on, Samir, please. So what ends up happening is because of the original fork with the AI, synthetic AI and the organic AI that happened then, and the synthetic AI escaping, we are quarantined until, as a species, we solve that, and then we'll have access to the rest of our other family in the universe. But the point is, we are stuck, still trying to solve the same problem, and we're being held in that stasis by the thought form.
Because you see, I have come across this research, and I do find it compelling. But there is the problem that we should have received help from the outside.
Let me reboot this, you guys. I'll give you the link. I'll give you all the link. I'll email you, Monica. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Hold on 1 second.
It's a quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Free version never. This is annoying. Okay. later.
You guys are basically talking about this same stuff that George and our group talk about.
It's all the same stuff once you actually become open. It's different perspectives of the same thing.
When you're done, I just want to ask you about that. When you talked about absolute truth, I want to get some clarifying on that.
Okay.
Because I have my own perception of that.
Invite. Yeah, there'll just be segment number 2, and then that will be it. Copy URL.
How long do your meetings usually last?
I limit them to an hour and a half, just because I only have so much energy to devote to these kinds of things. But they could go on forever.
Yeah, George's monthly webinars, it's usually 3 to 4 hours in one stretch.
Yeah, monthly. Like this is weekly. Plus, I'm trying to do one later tonight. So, and I don't even know.
If you're doing them that frequently, yeah.
I don't know how long I don't even know if I'll be able to continue doing 2 per day, but we're gonna try for today.
Yeah, 2 a day is a lot.
And also like working and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, walking between the worlds is what we talk about too.
Mm-hmm.
You guys we're all in the same. This is like there's an undercurrent that's coming up. People are waking up to themselves and are waking up to what's going on in reality. There's specific things we're supposed to be doing. There's specific reality happening. There's a specific outcome to why this planet is what it is, why we're here, what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And at some point, people are gonna have to make a decision whether to leave the planet or whether to stay here, and that'll determine where your journey's going from there. Personally, I'm staying. Whatever, so what it looks like, because it will look like things are going to get destroyed. It will look like it'll be a serious. People will be freaked out and they'll think they're going to die and stuff. But it just depends on what your journey is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really interesting that
Invite.
stuff's coming out.
Copy URL. This happened last time. Like
It wouldn't let you start it.
no, I copied the URL and shared it, but it acted like it copy pasted the old one.
Oh.
And people aren't coming back, so I'm assuming that's what happened again.
What's the free period?
CZ09. No, it should be the same one.
If there's a free period over, wouldn't they
You
have something in place that would stop you from continuing?
No, they haven't. Not at all.
It just stops you from having a continuous.
Yeah, it's like YouTube.
Just puts an interruption in there.
It's like YouTube putting ads in. Like, they harass you. You can still do the thing you're trying to do, but they just bother the shit out of you. So in order to
pay to get the bother the shit out of the way.
Right.
Give us money and we'll stop bothering the shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's retarded. Hey, Ren. Welcome back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Omar's here. Okay.
Do I have audio?
What's that?
Do I have audio?
Yes.
Good.
So we have segment number 2, which should be 45 minutes, and then we shall wrap up. And this time, I don't want to run to the very end and have everybody just disappear. So with 2 minutes or so left, we're going to say our goodbyes, and then I'm going to end it rather than the thing ending it. If that's okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I'd rather not monetarily reinforce technological limitations ending the call rather than myself.
All right.
Samir's back. Andrea's back. Who did we dropped Rebecca at the end, didn't we?
We're missing 2.
We're missing Monica and Rebecca. I sent Monica the new link, but it looks like... No, it is the new link. I remember last week I sent what I thought was the new link, but it was the old one. So, but we can just continue until people come in. I'll keep an eye on the thing. Monica's back. Okay. Fabian's here. Everyone except for Rebecca. Rebecca might have just been... Something may have come up. I'm not sure. But, so what was it? What did we end on? What was the topic?
It was Room 101.
Please, Samir, can you
whole
clarify?
point-
I've read 1984, but I forget what that room was about. Can you clarify?
Yeah, room 101 is they find out what the greatest fear of their torture victim is,
Mm-hmm.
and then they put them in room 101.
Yeah,
and in
yeah,
room 101, it's the greatest fear. So
Yeah.
with the main protagonist, I think I remember it was
Rats.
rats.
It was rats. Yeah.
It was rats, yeah. So that's room 101, and we've all got, like I was thinking, the main problem that humanity has to solve is that room 101, where you might go to the courts, Gary, or be dealing with people and say, look, this is the elephant in the room. We all know it. What's the deal? And they will refuse. I mean, I remember confronting one person that I knew with the elephant in the room because she said something to me that was extremely unfair. And then I pointed out where she's not actually seeing things. She literally sprinted out the room like Usain Bolt. She couldn't get out of the room fast enough. It was astonishing, and it was like, because I put up the mirror to her face,
Mm-hmm.
so she could see that what she was saying to me was completely crazy and unfair, and it's like she saw her face in the mirror, like and just couldn't handle it and ran. And this is a very weird aspect to, like, when somebody's being extremely unfair to you, if you manage to find a way to reflect themselves back at them, the particular, extreme unfairness, they will literally run out the room, like they're in physical pain. And again, this is a very weird thing to do with human beings, because if we didn't have that problem, we wouldn't be doing the wrong thing, pretending it's the right thing, which is what narcissists do.
Yeah. Have you guys listened to Knowing the Narcissist at all? Has anyone listened to that guy?
No.
I would advise, if you would like an insight into the mind of a narcissist, listen to like one episode of that guy. He's on YouTube. It's called Knowing the Narcissist. And
Knowing the Narcissist.
He explains what it is. He says, for the most, there are tiers of narcissism, like everything else. There are high functioning, and then there's ones that don't even know what they're doing. The high functioning ones have a decent understanding of what they're doing, but they know that they have to do that in order to survive. The lower ones also have to do that in order to survive, but they don't know they're doing it. That's the main difference.
But survive in what way? It sounds crazy because they're eating emotions.
They don't. They're the empty ones. They're the empty vessels, so to speak, and they only It's like they are only the ego, where other people. And it's a very hard concept to wrap your mind around, but they are like the black hole people. So they have to pull from empaths, people that are emitting energy, in order to survive. And it's a weird thing to think about, because as empaths, we want to care about everybody to some extent, right? We want to be able to allow everyone to exist. But if these people have to exist by literally stealing energy, then it makes for a weird construct to live inside of. And then
when you don't give it to them, they just they have to go elsewhere. They have to go somewhere else because there is nothing there to get from you. So as much as you can eliminate that energy, maybe so that they can eat from you. That's what I do a lot. I don't.
Yeah.
I keep myself in a neutral, often in a neutral.
You have like what I did, and I experienced the technological aspect of that through the malicious AI experience that I went through, and I only couch it in those terms now. I didn't understand it to be that before, but I experienced the eating on a very sort of ancient AI sort of internalized level, and it was trying to eat every movement and motion of my intent, rather than the narcissist thing is a more subdued version of that. But it's the same thing. It's like you have to learn how to internally become absolutely still, so it doesn't have any pattern to try and train upon.
Neutral zone, if you can.
You notice the people who you interact with on Facebook who you don't talk to for a while but keep coming back, those are your friends. But the people who you ignore and they disappear, those are the people who are the feeders.
Or the people that, if you give signals that you're just not interested in the conversation, and then they start trying to give a guilt trip, or they start trying to entice you to continue, even though you're receiving, even through the words they're writing, absolutely nothing, that's just a narcissist trying to eat. That's all it is.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was a guy who I had to block who would troll every single person that would comment on posts that had a certain viewpoint, and eventually I just got sick of it and blocked him, so nobody had to deal with him.
Yeah. So establishing personal boundaries, and that's what Aurora is talking about with her Merkaba. And I'm assuming that, there's a lot of talk of this being Atlantis or another version of what Atlantis ended in, but apparently in that era, the whole Merkaba thing was known and just understood as that you have to create an encrypted sort of energetic vortex field that you sit within that, inhibits other malicious entities from coming and stealing energy. And whatever we have come to now has disregarded any talk of that. And you have to go into the esoteric teachings and things like that to even understand that you need perimeter defense of your energetic field, It's insane.
Yeah. There's a really great book resource that I'll just drop for anybody that wants to look later. The-I.eu.
IEU?
The I, with a dash in between.
.I.
And it'll load up a main page and you click books. There's all kinds of topics, but in the folder called books, there are literally maybe 300,000 different books sorted by topic.
The-I/EU?
The-I.eu.
.eu, okay. And it's literature? What is it again?
They're books.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just make sure I have the address correct. Going off of memory. Yeah, that's it. If you go to the-i.eu, it'll say Home, Files, Community, enter the I, Open Data Directory Archive. And if you click Files, then it'll say Index of Public, and it'll say like Apple, audiobooks, books, comics, games, images, JFK files. I always click on books, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and then you just go from there. Like it says biomedical, Buddhism, field manuals, food for dummies, history, medical, occult library, and if you click on occult library, then it says alchemy, chaos, magic, Egyptology, Golden Dawn, Freemasonry. It just goes on and on and on. There's a lot of stuff, and they're all PDFs.
It's not working on my phone for some reason.
It's blocked from Facebook, so you need to use an external browser.
I'm just going from Safari on my phone.
Oh.
It's giving like an actual IP address, it looks like. It's changing to 84.38.3, a bunch of numbers, and it's just not opening. But I could try later.
Let me copy the link here.
Yeah, maybe share it in the group chat.
Sure. Oh, wait, no, it's blocked from Facebook. I can't do that, so I'll separate it out.
Wow. Shadow
banning.
banning.
You know something is good when Facebook blocks it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to anybody who sees this link in the group chat, I'm separating the period that makes the URL work with parentheses around the dot for EU. So you have to remove that. You have to copy it, paste it into a browser, and remove the parentheses.
Oh, I got it. I just put the letter I instead of EYE.
Oh, okay.
I got you.
English problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha.
So the dash EYE dot EU. Okay, and you said you like to go to what again? Files?
I clicked the books because I like to read, but there's audiobooks, but books.
Is that on the initial page? What do you click on first?
Oh, on the initial page, let me click back here. When you get to the page, you click Files.
Mm-hmm.
And then you click Books.
Files.
And for most of the stuff we like, I just go to Occult Library, but there's all kinds of different things going on.
Okay. Public books. I got you.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Omar, for that.
Welcome.
What else? There's so much. There's so much to discuss. It's almost hard to hone, even if we establish a regularity of, say, weekly meetings. There is so much information. It's very difficult.
There's another person I thought would be interesting as a resource. His name's Thomas Sheridan, because I studied criminal psychology.
It's a bit of a red flag for me.
Oh, you don't like him?
He's an asshole.
Well, he's an asshole, but just because somebody is an asshole doesn't mean they're not intelligent or have insights. There's a lot of people I've listened to that I didn't like, but it's not about like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which a lot of people do.
Oh, sure. I don't want to ever talk to him, but he's a racist asshole. But he might have something interesting to say.
Oh, he's got some very in-depth insights into basically the use of ritual black magic, serial killing, and modern-day society, and how the whole thing has all been used as social engineering. Black magic psychology has been used on humanity. He's got.
Excuse me, who are you talking?
He's reading
Is
all
that
of this out of books.
Thomas
Is
Sheridan.
that Tilly that we're talking about?
Thomas Sheridan.
Oh.
He's reading all this out of books, though, and he's just quoting books he reads. He's not actually an original content thought form. He's just reading books and summarizing stuff, presenting it as his own.
Omar, if you don't mind, I would like for you to expand a little bit on the quarantine idea that you talked about.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your take on that.
Sure, I don't mind at all. There's a lot of memories that I've gotten over the last 15 years or so that are independent of anything I've read that confirm in bits and pieces when I do find a book and read it and go, oh yeah, that's like what I remember. But a book that has a great amount of information in it around this that explains it really well, as an aside, is called The Prism of Lyra. I can drop it in the group. I have it on my website. But the idea basically is that about 250 million years ago, there was a being who had this idea to create a copy of ourselves, sort of like a cloned version, that would, just as an experiment, just as a thought form, that would be us, but not be us, sort of like an externalized version of self. And he didn't like the results of that and abandoned the idea. And after he abandoned the idea, other people had gotten wind of his attempt to clone himself in another form. And what happened is they got curious about it, and then that was, even though they saw that it didn't work for him, they were determined to make it work. And that was where the synthetic AI began, versus inorganic, innate, embodied intelligence. Because that juncture point, going from a energy source that is linked to a body is really the original fall, in the sense that yes, we have an energy body and we have an embody, or we have a body, but that is the problem, because we're only supposed to be the energy source that's linked to the body. And most people think of themselves in this new age world as an external, separate energy source inhabiting a body that's trapped and not from here. But it's more of that. You are an energy source intimately tied to one body, and you are your own thing, but people will get confused and think that they belong to, in the worst case, multiple bodies, and then they have multiple personality problems. But I'm tracking all over the place. I know it's horrible. The actual thing is all of the problems started from this one experiment trying to be replicated. And even after the original person stopped that, people were still trying to get it right. And that led to the spread of this mind virus, this synthetic thought form, or trying to inject a consciousness from a source into multiple bodies or spread it. And then that led to the formation of the written word to try to control that. And then it spread to religion to try to control that. And it spread to a whole bunch of different things. So we've created all manner of structures around attempting to control this difference of opinion, wherein the most natural state is that there is no control exerted upon another organism from any external organism. And that is the problem. That is why this planet is quarantined. Everything is supposed to just exist and not try to exert force of will or opinion on another being or thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what everybody comes back to after pulling out of the grasp of that thing which you were talking about, which is not supposed to be happening, which is the individual beings being forcibly moved and or manipulated without explaining why. That's the situation as it has come to, is the beings which are supposed to be free and creative have been attached with all kinds of different methods of control, and we are imprisoned in that sense, where the reason, the logic for why that has happened is not explicitly stated in any way, shape, or form if you just open your eyes and look around. So you have to go digging internally and go digging information-wise and actually try to find other individuals who have any clue what's going on, and it takes a while to figure out that sort of thing. But I think innately everyone knows you're supposed to be free. Like, you're supposed to be able to move around and do things, and if there is a problem, you're supposed to be able to use your words to say, hey, there's a problem. But then that whole narcissistic thing made it so you can't just say, I can't just walk out to the middle of a big city and talk to the nearest person and say, hey, like, this whole thing is doing something weird with me and I don't really feel right, and yada, yada, yada. There's not like a town square where we can go and voice our feelings. Like, the narcissist thing made it so, like, lies became energetically legal, where before they weren't, because they have to be energetically illegal, because you can't tell if someone's lying or not because it's subjective. It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah. The perpetuation of this entire system is that anything that contributes to the removal of autonomy of a being is going to be applauded and given energy and given focus, and that will continuate this problem. The computer AI is starting to look after itself now and ensure that we never actually get back to self. But the point I was actually making is that, yes, absolutely, everything you just said. However, it's even such that you're not even supposed to need to express yourself that way. That's how broken everything is. That shouldn't even be part of the equation, because if we were living how we were supposed to be, we wouldn't have any discontent or malfeasance, period.
Yeah.
When I went camping for the first time alone for 3 weeks, after about a week and a half, there were no thoughts. And I heard the leaves cracking under my feet and thought, that's the first time in my entire life I've experienced that. Wow. And I immediately realized how backwards I'd been living my entire life, and how really we're just animals that are moving through this tapestry of space-time. We don't have a natural will and want to exert force on other people. That's not what we're here for. And I was very, very happy just moving around through the creek and the rocks and eating things and looking at stuff and just experiencing that. And that was enough. Not a want in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you say the whole no thought thing, because that's part of also what is impressed upon us if we study Buddhism, namely in which they say you're not trying to kill the mind, you're not trying to remove the thoughts. Thoughts are necessary, they're like clouds in the sky, you simply have to just let them be and pass through. And it's like, no, that's not true. Like, I don't have thoughts, and I can stop them if I want. Like, I can go an entire day if I concentrate on it without having a thought. Like, it's literally a thing. It's like a little bubble. I see it and I can go poke, and I can sink back into the state of no thought. It's not, and maybe I'm unique or something, but it seems like something anybody can attain to. It doesn't seem that difficult.
No, you're right.
I was just going to say, so it's interesting, Dr. Beans, what you're discussing here, because as regards to spiritual experience, I wrote down actually this dream that I had, right? And so it was this paternal voice. It sounded very high in terms of leadership, but not of a bossy sort of type. And he said to me, he said, you see, Samir, humanity lost the war 18 million years ago, and it is one we have lost continually over the last 80 million years to the same force. It is mainly computational and has a few tactics it is very good at, but the one in which it excels at is divide and rule. And he said, humanity falls for it every time. And that was in my dream. That was a voice. I spoke about this in Guy's Unisolating 5. The other, I put before like a computer monitor in the dream, and then the guy just gives me a lesson about what's going on. It's really quite, and that was one of them, about humanity losing about 80 million years ago. So when you're bringing up the millions of years ago and the quarantine, you see the problem that I have with that again is I don't understand. I think that we are last man standing, because otherwise we would have been given help because obviously there's negative extraterrestrial influence, but where's the positive extraterrestrial influence? We haven't been receiving it. It's a bit of a concern.
This is a quarantine. Can't get out. We're in the quarantine. So without sounding like an asshole, what I'm trying to say is, yes, you're spot on in your dream, and that we're cognizant of that. Wherein that is your highest self, your actual self, uploading that into your subconscious mind so you can ponder it when you're awake in this place. But what's actually going on there is you're getting memories of a history lesson of something that you've been trying to sort out, and you're getting that guidance from yourself. Sorry, I lost track of what the main point was to respond.
Well, the main point was, you see, we should have received assistance by now, and we haven't really received any. And to me, evil prospers when good people do nothing.
I remember.
Well, they're not good people if they do nothing. So
that's an ego problem, and nobody's coming to save you but you.
No, when you look at,
we're just looking for another savior program.
And that's more of the programmed thought forms that keep us ensnared within.
Something I would like to interject really quickly, if this helps understand, like, if you were not going on the model that says there are beginnings and endings. If you're not going on that model, that's the standard religious model that's imposed. If you're not going on that model, then you're faced with whatever your concept of eternity is, okay? Of no beginning, no end. You simply exist, and there's really no concept of time other than differentiating what's passing through the lens of perception. And if that is the case, then 250 million years is a snap of a finger, and it doesn't mean anything until you, as the being that's existing forever, finally decides to take self-responsibility and look into what the fuck has been going on for 250 million years, right? Mm-hmm. And you have forever. We have infinite amount of time to make excuses, and we can stay here as long as we wish, right?
Yes, time is relative, and that inscribes the circle. You're absolutely right, 100%.
Well, you see, it's not about, I do realize about taking self-responsibility and so on. I've been doing that for decades now. It's why I've managed to figure out so much. My point is that society and so much more gets weaponized against you. My phone stopped working, the emails stopped working, neighbors give you funny looks. It's like the whole thing gets turned into a weapon and used against a person who starts to understand too much about what's going on in the world. So it's, I don't have an ego problem, Dr. Beans. I've already looked at it. Not you.
That thought form is an ego problem.
Because, for example, for people who've been in my situation and orgs and others, you end up having the hive mind infected, and they follow you around in cars and just try and make life difficult for you at every single turn. And even holding down a job becomes difficult because of the rumors that they're spreading. So it's what I'm saying is that they should, if there's one force, there should be an equal and opposing other force, but there isn't.
I've always said that. Excuse me. There always has to be an equal and opposing force.
But there's
no other. But how can it be
otherwise? There is
in existence.
It's just that
it has to be balanced, even if it's endless.
Any scapegoat knows it's them against 6 or 7 people in the family. That's not an
issue.
But the human mind sees difference and it feels fear. What this makes you feel uneasy, doesn't it?
But the opposing negative and
this you can understand better. It's a chord. It has an end point. It's here, but what is this? How many chords are there? Will I know what to do with them? You develop a fear-based response to things you don't immediately understand or have a filter for with experience.
Right.
And so much of the secondary consequence of Samir trying to figure out his footing in all of this is that as he's doing that, it creates a large degree of entropy, and it alters the way he not only interacts with people, but sees himself in those interactions, and that has a very powerful effect on the end result because it creates noise, it creates entropy. It's the 1 chord versus the 10 chords I just held out. Mm-hmm. And that not only echoes within the self, but it echoes externally to the environment and everything you interact with.
But how can there be a neutral point if there's no opposite and opposing force? And
this is my point.
Centralize things to
you are the neutral point.
Exactly. And from that spreads the opposite.
Something that, if I can clarify.
What would be the center? What would be the center of what? And what would neutrality be?
Sorry, that was confusing. Gary, please go ahead.
We had Andrea and I had a conversation a couple days ago, and what we were talking about was the distortion is what allows this experience. Okay, like you can't see the balancing aspect, or you're not going to see the body. Like that's the whole thing that allows you to see the body in the first place. It's there, an aspect of yourself is separated off that balances out the entire universe, so to speak, of apparent motion and form, and from the 0 point, which we all are at the core, emanates out the duality. But the thing that you're seeing, like, I have a body, there's also a thing that says I don't have a body to balance that out. But if you're sitting there focusing on both at the same time, then literally there is nothing happening. You're back to 0 point, and there has to be that part that you can't understand, otherwise you don't see anything at all. That
Well,
was
as soon as you're not focusing, maybe you're already then in neutral.
we're already always there. We're always
We're
there.
also in between nows, though.
Gary, that goes back to what I was saying originally a few minutes ago, which is that 0 point is the beingness. All of the other things that you just described are trying to define that beingness through external variables in the environment or in the way we interact with the environment. But if you really want to understand the nature of self, it's completely independent of any external force or any perceived interaction with any external force. And that is, I realize how complicated that is, so sit with it, I guess.
No, it makes sense. Part of the problem, so to speak, was getting spirit, what we know as spirit, entangled with matter in the first place, and that whole thing we call identification, which is like, and it's very difficult for the mind to understand, like, how can this empty essence that seems to be me outside of all the motions and movements, how can that possibly be somehow attached to what we know as matter, which also we know as mostly empty space? And the whole mentalizing of it breaks down really quickly. But it's a problem when initially looked at, because matter hurts. Like, it hurts being matter because it can get hurt. We're soft. Like our bodies are soft. They can get cut up and all this stuff. So it's going to be traumatic to even think about that I could possibly actually be this body. But the fact is it is part of the equation, and that's how we're speaking in the first place. And maybe, it's probably a philosophical, subjective thing to where we're actually the matter or we're not the matter. But I think it can be both. Like, I think the two can marry, the matter and the non-matter, and you can toggle. That's also what we're talking about. Like, you can toggle between the emptiness or the 0 point and motion and matter, and it's up to you as whatever is your internal intent point to whether you want to stay mostly matter or mostly spirit or mostly 0 point or mostly whatever suits you at the moment.
Or it could be as simple as, this is an apricot, this is part of a banana.
Yeah, sure.
And it doesn't even have to be an apricot. It's just this orange thing. And you've seen that it can be eaten, so you eat it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
It might be a in some other part of the world.
But it's all of it. And
Right.
That's
But like
that's the curse of language.
It is. It really is, because and this is also something that you see when you smoke weed, if you're sensitive to it, is that the mentalizing aspect of it is infinite. And if you've never seen what infinity is, then you will have the biggest ego death ever on just smoking a bong rip. And I did that with 3 massive bong rips, and I had however many ego deaths is required to survive that thing. But the mental part of it actually is, it's like, it kind of is finite and it kind of is infinite, but the you is always trying to grasp what's going on, and it's always slipping away from you. That's what I found in weed. But somehow coming back to what is the more stable form of self, it's able to like dance on the infinity of language without getting lost, because it will go on forever. And there are multiple ways to describe any particular so-called thing, and there are multiple interpretations. And then it's the whole math thing, like exponential growth, in terms of, oh, this could be a speaker, this could be a microphone, this could be a piece of metal, this could be a mesh on top of a volume button. And then there are permutations of just, I described the same object here like 5 different ways. There are permutations of that with every other object that we name. And then you bring lies into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gets complicated really, really quickly.
Yeah, and Gary, that's what's so interesting, too, in what you just were talking about with the differentiation of self, blah, blah, blah. When you're talking about weed, when I smoked DMT, that completely changed my perception and relationship with myself and within the world. I was lucky enough to have a friend that ordered some leaves from South America and made it. And he goes, "Hey, I just made some DMT. Would you like to try some?" And I said, "What is it? What's it gonna do?" He goes, "It's gonna change your life." I'm like, "Sounds good so far. Do I have anything to worry about?" He's like, "No, not really." I'm like, "Okay, so what do I do?" Like, just sit here. Don't try to get up. I'm gonna pass you this pipe. You're gonna take a puff of it and try your hardest to make sure that you see me holding the pipe before you let go of it. Otherwise, you're good. Just enjoy. And I took a puff of it, and I was sitting down on a park bench with a few friends, and we were at a beach in Santa Cruz. And the next thing I remember was holding the pipe out, and I saw him grab the pipe, and I let go, and my eyes shut, and I flew out of the top of my body and blasted off of the planet and started flying through what can only be described as infinite blackness. But first, I went past all of the planets in our local solar system, and then through a few things that can only be described as what felt like a black hole or like a tunnel, and bouncing around and sorting through all these funnels and like being vacuumed out of this place. And then eventually ended up, and this whole time I couldn't see myself. And then eventually ending up in this infinite black void, and then infinitely far away and infinitely close at the same time. There are all these amorphous blobs of color and form and shapes just doing all kinds of weird things, and was just hovering there. And there was absolutely no sense of time. There was no body. There was no ground. There was no sky. It was just infinite blackness, like almost kind of like that scene in Tron where they drop into the simulation, but there's no reference point whatsoever.
Hey, Omar, I want to hear the story, and we're about to end, so I'm gonna reboot this thing one more time and keep it limited on the other side. But I do want to hear more about your DMT experience, and I have something to add to that as well. So I'm gonna do it, if you guys are okay, one more time, and we'll go on for another maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Okay?
Cool.
Okay. It's $15 a month. It'll be worth it once I can afford it.
Oh, to have unlimited Zoom.
Yeah. Because it's a huge pain in the ass. Like, that was...
It breaks up the flow of the energy.
It does. It's retarded.
I know what you're talking about.
It's very stupid. And it's usually at like a crucial point that should not be broken up. But such
it's the control structure trying to... Ultimately, they'll fail, though.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds like the one guy is still struggling with a bit of the savior thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wants to be, he's looking for something to come save him, and he doesn't realize he's the one, he's waiting for himself.
Yeah.
He's the one that's got to do it. But we each have our journey through. Yeah, everything you guys are talking about, it's like you guys are using different words, but you're basically the same things that our George's and us, our group, talk about. We just use different words, and he had a certain experiences, and I feel like some of George's George has a little bit more detail, like deeper in, like more of like outside of what he calls a grand cosmic arena, where all these distortions are at, basically beyond where there is no distortion. It says there's a place in the universe where there is no distortion. It's all in perfect balance and harmony. So he had an experience where he got to see those levels, and you guys, feels like you guys are discussing a lot of the details within the grand cosmic arena and fleshing out, which is important because that's where we're at right now. We need to feel in ourselves how to navigate that, so we can, those of us who are ready to conclude our journey, can conclude it and exit out of it and become what we came here to become.
Yep. Okay, we have Omar back, we have Rin back, and Omar, you can just go back into the DMT experience if you want to continue that.
Sure, yeah. So what I where I left off was being in this amorphous void with all these colors and shapes, but they were all changing, and they weren't really ever specifically anything. They were just there. I remember coming back from this space. There was a single thought when I was at the finishing point in there, the destination, so on, which was, I'm in the point where all things come from and everything originates from. Interesting. And then the thought was, well, then let's go back and hopefully I can remember this. And so I ended up going and flying backwards through all of that craziness, and eventually saw the Earth and thought, that's really weird. Okay. And then there was like another tunnel that I went through, and then I saw myself suddenly inside the Earth's atmosphere at the very top of what felt like the limiting sort of threshold. And then I went down in altitude until I passed through the cloud layer. And then I saw North America, and then I saw California, and then I saw the Pacific coastline, and then I saw myself sitting on the park bench, and I saw my friends around me, and there was a very distinct sort of subconscious auditory thought, which was, is that the right body? Yeah, that's him. And then pop right through the top of the back of the head, and then my eyes opened, and I looked, and my friends were sitting exactly where they were, where I just had seen them before I jumped into my body with my eyes closed, still in the trip. And then the weirdest thing happened. I looked in front of me, and there was a porta potty maybe 30 feet off in the distance in front of me, and then there were trees and bushes and stuff. Everything stitched itself back together line by line, from like fuzzy, but like in pixels. It was like the information was coming back in squares, like like when you would be in the library in junior high and you try to download a picture. It was like you couldn't see it.
Yep.
And then it eventually, it stopped trying to load something. The words have stopped moving, and it says it's 100%. There's a picture now. And then it went like this. And it snapped into place, and everything was crystal clear, and all I could say for 5 minutes was, holy shit.
Wow.
So that changed my understanding of how we relate to this.
Andrea had a similar experience. She smoked
Just
DMT one time, and she did the same thing. She shot up out of the head, up through all the things, went up to like the peaceful place, and I think she, if I remember right, she told me that she was like, all right, well, fuck that place that I just came from. I'm not ever gonna go back, or something like that. But then she was still connected somehow to that, and somebody down there, I think she said it was like a seer guy, some sort of shamanic dude. One of his eyes was like non-functional or something, but that's irrelevant. But he told her, he's like, be careful, don't go too high up, because you might not be able to get back again. And somehow that voice reached up to where she was at, and she got pulled back. But it was the same kind of experience, like something that shows the relative insignificance of this planet or this world, even though while we're here it seems like everything and it's very traumatic and painful and all this. But if you just get one glimpse into the non limited aspect of everything, then this place takes its proper place, which is not irrelevant. It's very relevant because we're here, but it's also not as problematic as the religions would like to claim. They would like to claim that this whole thing is so problematic and we gotta pay all this attention to sin and ourselves and this and that. And it's not, all of it is not that big of a deal, and all of it is crazy. Like it's very strange thing once you take one blast out of the normal day-to-day thing.
When I saw that picture she'd painted with the triangles and the eyeballs in the sky, I knew that she had smoked DMT. So
Yeah.
I was like, I need to know this person. Who is that?
Yeah, she does. Like every painting that she does, it has some otherworldly aspect in it. Very interesting.
Yeah, the psilocybin experience I had, it wasn't as profound as what Dr. Beans just talked about, but it was, it helped me a lot. I had an out-of-body experience. This was when I was seeing the tulpas as well. The black swirling smoke that used to come into my house, and it was filled with menace and so on. This is when I was first waking up. It's quite interesting. Org was having one of his videos in which he described how unpleasant it was getting the electric shocks. And this was back in 2016 or something like that. And it was around that time, there was this wake up, so there's this artificial method of waking people up that they put me through. And it was electric shocks to the throat, the black swirling smoke coming into my house, being able to wake you up when they wanted to, having blue lightning gamble up the wall of my house, and like millions of other things, including the bees coming from another dimension into ours to attack me and my sisters. This is all part of the sort of wake-up process, because apparently we signed a soul agreement that, okay, if you want to wake up, this is the price of the ticket. You're going to be made the scapegoat of your family, friends, country. Everyone will fail you. We will give archangels, to help you out, to help you survive. Hopefully you do. There's no guarantees. If you do survive, you wake up and you move on to the next civilization. Okay, so there's all those souls there, and then the other side is, they say, look, you're going to have an easy life. You get to persecute the guys who are going to live, who are going to live forever. But their cost is that they end up. So is there something wrong with the phone?
That's Andrea. I think she's back.
That's good.
She's listening.
Okay.
Welcome back, Andrea.
Because whenever I'm speaking as well, the phone goes crazy. It switches from one picture to another, goes off, on, and then they like to do that to me, so that in the past, when that happens, usually I switch off the audio. So I'll be speaking for like 5 minutes, and nobody heard a damn thing. That's it's a fun game they've done. So I have to stop asking every. It disrupts the flow of the conversation. But what I was trying to say was, on the other side, the people who get to the sheep have an easy life, but they don't wake up. This was the gist of a lot of Org. What he was saying was that these are the two soul choices that you could have had, and then how it plays out in the dream afterwards would be dependent upon millions of other things. But so all the sheep, the reason why their lives are easy and they don't get targeted, and so on. I mean, I'm overtaken all the time by other cars, but I'm the one with the speeding ticket. I'm being prosecuted for speeding in England when I'm always being overtaken. It's like, how does that even work?
And the reason they don't get caught is because you're saying they have an easy life because.
Oh, they have an easy life.
2 hours, right? Or 2 hours?
Yeah, compared to ours.
Because they.
Because they basically sold out. There was a limited number of spaces moving forward into the next civilization, and there was a tremendous number of souls, and they were told, not all of you are going to make it. Some of you will have an easy life. Okay, we'll make sure you have a very easy life, but you end up getting possessed by the computer program that's going to come online, which we're seeing now. People you know,
Excuse me, please, but for what? But for those who have very deeply, let's say, complicated lives, does that mean at the other end that?
That means on the other end, if we manage to turn that suffering that we're given and persecution into knowledge, meaning, and growth, that expands our soul and our spirit and increases the likelihood that we're going to actually reach sort of like everlasting life. Whereas all the other people are going to end up being absorbed by the computer in one way or another. And
you can see it happening.
Yeah, which is happening. I mean, yeah.
You can see it happening.
Samira, you can toggle between what's called active speaker and gallery view, and that will stop it from jumping around to all the multiple videos.
I know. It sounds good to you, and it probably works if you do that. But if I do it, I'm speaking from experience here.
Are you on the cell phone, Samir, or are you on a computer?
Cell phone.
Okay.
By tapping your screen and clicking from active speaker to gallery view. It should be in the upper.
Share participants more. There's no active or whatever.
Do you see switch camera and switch to active speaker or switch to gallery view?
No, it doesn't say. No.
It's separate from the mute share participants tab. It should be opposite.
No, there's nothing there.
Is anybody else on a cell phone? I know Rebecca was, but she's not here anymore.
I'm on a cell phone.
Do you have that option, Fabian? Maybe Fabian can help Samir out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll do it later.
No, it's fine. It's not a problem. If it's being a bother to you, we should try to figure it out.
Yeah. So what's in 2020? what do you think this story is going to happen there? It's supposed to be clear vision. Because a lot of what we think we know, a lot of things are actually being hidden from us right now, aren't they? We're in denial of...
I think, Samir, this is what I think, okay? Depending on the individual, you have the amount of power that you're allowing yourself to believe that you have. And once you have that thought, then you can try. You can try it out, okay? Once you have that thought, you can try it out. And if you say, Samir, let me talk. Sorry. Samir, stop. Let me talk. I'm trying to explain. Once you have that initial thought, you have to experiment with... Because if you don't have that initial thought that says, I'm capable of anything and everything, I'm God, basically. If you do not have that initial thought, you're going to be limited. Have the thought, then go experiment and see what works for you. If it's true that you just have iron bands on every part of your consciousness and you can't move an inch, then you're going to go experiment with that. You'll find that out.
No, I never said that. I'm saying that there are actual proper limitations going on here. Like I would have a job, right? And I'll type the postcode for the job into the sat nav. It took me in the opposite direction. I'm not even joking. And I ended up being about 45 minutes late for the interview. This is standard. When you're a TI, that is standard. It happens all the time. The fact that I'm even on the phone with you now is a miracle.
You were on here last week.
I know. It's become a lot easier the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping that's...
I'm not, Samir, I'm not trying to say that whatever limitations you are currently experiencing is bad or good. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that once we establish what our actual power is, then it becomes up to us. So, for instance, if your thing is that you have, say you have a perimeter fence around your little area. You're inside your house, and once you hit 50 feet, you get zapped. Bzz, right? You cannot go past that anymore. Just like in 4400, there's a perimeter fence. You get zapped. You've established that, okay? Now you know inside that 50-yard or 50-foot perimeter, that's where you can be yourself and you can do things and so on and so forth. And then once you establish what are your proper limitations, then use your freedom within that to determine what's happening in 2020. That's what I'm saying.
All right, that I agree with. But otherwise, this whole, awaken your giant within.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, what's that donkey's name? Mr. And he wasn't taking into account physics or economics or any of that stuff. It was, what is that guy? He's 6'5". He's Tony Robbins. That he pisses me off because they did a reverse speech analysis on him, and it was very interesting. In the reverse speech analysis, when they reversed the speech, you know what came out? It was, hello?
Who's typing? Somebody's typing a message.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, so, and what came out was that he is a homosexual and he hates himself. Yeah, Tony Robbins, I swear to God, go to reverse speech analysis, and they found that when you reverse people's speech for long enough, somehow the patterns aggregate, and then it's blank for about 20 seconds, and then, and then the words come out, I hate being a homosexual or something like that, and then it continues.
They did the same thing on Obama, actually.
Yeah, Obama,
he was saying, yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
yeah, we can do it, or yes, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. It's like, thank you, Satan. Thank you, Satan.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly, that's what I'm talking about, and this is when they did that on Tony Robbins. He said he hates being a homosexual cocaine addict, and he hates his crowd or fans or audience, that sort of thing. So, anyway.
Yeah, I'm not trying at all to say, again, just everybody please remember that I'm speaking with the knowledge that everyone's self-truth is subjective, and it's only interlinked via however we choose to share with each other. Like, if I was actually so powerful or whatever, I wouldn't have been nearly homeless for the last 2 years and having no money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's what I was talking to Andrew about recently. Like, when I did my thing with weed, I went through very many dimensions, and the game of chess, which I enjoy a lot, I went through that, and I saw the whole thing, okay? Like, I saw every aspect of chess there was to see. I knew all of it. I knew more than all the grandmasters and everything, and it was solved like checkers for me. But then when I came back, it wasn't. I have like hints of it, of that memory when I play the game, and I'm good, compared to a lot of people, but I don't have the thing which says it's solved, which would mean that there's no more enjoyment in it for me. So, like...
No, I'm with you on that. I've had aspects of that God mind in which I was able to sort of put my consciousness, because, it's a non-localized phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And I my consciousness in the trees, and I could feel like how infinitely long they'd been there, and their consciousness was of a completely different variety, to ours. And then I got access to this kind of God's mind that you've been talking about, in which you understood every part of chess game, but not in, but you couldn't describe it in language terms.
And I couldn't bring it back. Like I couldn't come back here and be a GM.
Understand, sorry.
What I was saying is I couldn't bring it back here. Like I couldn't come back here and say, here I'm a grandmaster, and everybody start paying me for lessons and stuff like that. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because it has to be brought in here and then dissected using language and culture and history and human terms as to. If you have a lot of testosterone, it's domination and submission, conquest, and the knowledge is filtered in through all of that. Whereas when you're in the God's mind, you don't have to put up with any of that.
And please, may I interject? I want to make it just state for the record that I do not thank Satan in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And I do not consent to any of his works.
Wow, I went to the bathroom and missed a whole thing on religion. Crap.
No, you didn't. It's just Satan wasn't mentioned. That's all. You didn't miss anything.
It's only clear, and that that's not one I chose. Yes, Samir.
Monica, if you've got time as well, because I'm looking for people to speak with, so that we can pool our knowledge. Because as I was trying to explain earlier, I don't actually see there being a balance here. I see it as one scapegoat and about 6 or 7 people and they're flying monkeys on that one scapegoat, which doesn't sound fair to me. So I was thinking about, for people in our situation, because Monica, it sounds to me, given sort of your energy and how you've come across, that you're probably maybe being scapegoated in the same way that I have. And then it would be a good idea if we could pool our resources and our understanding and so on.
Yes, yes, that would be very interesting for me. That would be very interesting for me. I've had to work through that a bit, actually. Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
I can tell.
I would actually love that, actually.
No, that's good, because that's what happens with us. No matter what you do, it's wrong. And
well, the thing is, I think this is where we come into the thing of the balance, and we have to be that. I think we are that balance. You were saying that you don't see the balance. Well, we are the balance.
Yeah, but 1 against 10 or 11 people doesn't exactly. 1 against 10 or 11 people doesn't exactly sound fair, because everyone sides automatically side with a psychopathic narcissist, and it took me a while. I was reading.
But we remember, Samir, we have to be, and if you are pushed that hard, you have to keep you have to be that, you have to equal out the other 10. I mean, it's just simple, right? Really, it has. We are it. Like this, we are the balance. We're not.
I know it just doesn't.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like you're saying, there's no other balance. But maybe this is the last one man standing. Maybe this is it. The last, this where you choose and choose and choose.
It just seems unfair, because all they have to do is lie and accept the lie, and go with the lie, because that's all the devil wants is for the people to accept the lie.
But you know what? Could it be possible that if you don't butt heads maybe with that idea or whatever, just how can I explain this? It's more. I don't think you have to go that. It's playing the game. It's playing a part of the game that doesn't necessarily have to be because of played. You're butting your head against something. I think I'm trying to learn to loosen it up and become that the other end of the balance that you say that doesn't exist because it's balanced. Well, obviously you're at that other end. So it's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to whoever in whatever, if you see what I mean.
It's stunning. It's stunning.
But you see what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right? Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just saying, it's stunning though, isn't it? That there can be 20 years worth of evidence for their malfeasance, and they won't see it.
Samir, can I say something?
That's a long answer, but is there, excuse me please, but for one, did you say that you wanted to exchange to some other points? I would really, really, really enjoy.
Yeah. So do you have an email or something?
I haven't. Yeah, Gary's got my email. What's yours?
Hey, Andrea.
I don't give it out.
She's here via image.
Yeah. Will you give me yours?
Yeah. Okay. Gary, you got my email, haven't you?
I will. I think I have your email. Do I? I know I have.
Can you give me?
Okay, Monica. Okay, it's S for September.
Write it down and show. Do you have a pen in front of you? And paper.
Yeah, that's how I got you on, right, Monica?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where's the friggin' pen?
Andrea, do you have a voice? Are you audible?
She's muted, I think.
She's muted? Okay.
Am I muted?
Unmute audio.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Fabian.
Yeah, we can hear you, Fabian.
Andrea?
Cool.
Nope, she's muted. You gotta unmute yourself from your phone, I think.
It might take you a second, too.
Samir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I just wondered, do you practice any form of meditation, or do you have...
Yeah, heartfulness is called Sahaj Marg. Heartfulness meditation. It's excellent, actually. It's the best that I found. Okay, so here's Monica. This is my email address. I don't know. How the hell? What's the best way of doing this, Gary?
Hold it really close to the screen. Just focus on the words.
All right. Well, tell me when you.
Down. Go down.
Go up.
How's that?
Up with the paper or down with the camera?
I don't see any words.
Other direction.
Or spell it.
There you go.
It's like that. Turn left, go right. Goes right.
Yeah, how's that?
No. Maybe we should try spelling it. Maybe Samir.
All right. Okay. Or temporarily, I'm on Facebook. We can.
I don't do anything. I don't do Facebook. I don't do any of that. That takes time.
Just read it out loud, Samir.
Yeah.
That's easiest.
Yeah. Okay. It's. Hey, Monica. Are you Monica O'Brien? Or is another Monica?
She's not on Facebook. Just read your email address out loud.
We were supposed to have met like 2 months ago or something.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, all right.
Samir, look, I'll read Monica's email to you. You write it down, okay?
No, not over the.
Oh yeah, never mind. Never mind. Okay.
You see, Monica, the problem is that if you're in the situation that I'm in, the technological nosiness.
Samir, what's your email, Samir?
Okay, S for September, A for Alpha, M for Mother, I for India, R for Romeo, dot K for Kilo, dot Kalfan, that's K for Kilo, H for Hotel, A for Alpha, L for Lima, F for Foxtrot, A for Alpha, N for November, at gmail.com.
So that's samir.k.kh.
ALFAN.
FAN.
Yeah, F for Freddy, AN.
Yes.
At gmail.com.
Okay. Got it.
All right, and I will send an email back to you if you send one to me, just so you know, because if you don't get a response from me, it means I didn't get your email. Because you spoke before about people picking, you had interesting things to say on the guys on Isolating 5, in which I was discussing all the harassment,
Yeah, mine has been a different, not as intense. Let's say it's been a very different, it was very subtle, a different frequency wave maybe is the easiest way to put that.
Yeah.
It was a very subtle but ongoing, non-ending.
Decades.
Very subtle, but yes, for decades.
Decades and decades and decades.
But not overt like yours at all. It was just very, but very, very, very present. And also some, of course, very physical things in the workplace, and a lot of that for sure. So much that I just thought it was me for a long time. But anyway.
Samir?
But not as intense, but the same. I understand. I don't want to say too much either. I don't like to say too many things on YouTube, although I'm talking a lot right now. So if there's another way to chat about stuff, I wouldn't like to go any further than this on YouTube.
Samir, was it Samir.k.Calfan? Was it Samir.k.Calfan, or was there just Samir.Calfan?
No, Samir.
It's .k.
Okay. I'm sending you an email too, so in case you guys are unable to connect, then I will just share your guys' email with each other. I'll forward them to each other.
Thank you.
And we'll get you connected
Monica?
somehow.
Yeah.
I actually run a a chat server that is completely secure and encrypted. Samir has had some issues getting connected to it, but I'm confident he can figure it out eventually. But it is speakthings.com.
Speakthings.com. Yes.
And there are instructions there for to use it with your computer or phone or whatever you have, for every type of phone, every type of computer, or you can just click a button to do a quick chat within your web browser. But if you're going to have an extended conversation, it'd be best to download a a client for your particular device that you use to connect to the internet.
Download a client, you say?
Are you on a laptop right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, does it run Windows?
Yeah, I guess so. Yes.
Okay.
Sure does.
If it's Microsoft Windows, there's instructions on there, but you'll need a program called MIRC.
MIRC. Yes.
And you can get that at a link that's on speakthings.com. It'll be mirc.com.
Wonderful. Yes.
And then you can email me or get a hold of me through Gary. I can just give you my email now. If you need help setting it up, I'll guide you through it. It's
wonderful.
Omar, OMAR.
OMAR.
At javatalk.net.
JOB.
Java, like coffee.
Oh, Java. JAVA.
Talk.
.net. Okay.
What I'm trying to do is with this server is give people something that's not Facebook or YouTube or something that's publicly owned, a place to talk where they know that nobody's monitoring what's being said there. It's completely secure with the technology, and you have freedom of speech, and it's not being sent somewhere. So that's why I created this.
Oh, yes, that sounds like what we need, actually.
I sent you an email to Omar. I don't think I had it yet.
Cool. Okay.
So we're coming close to the wrap of the third 45 minutes, and we went well past what I thought it was going to be, but it was good, so that's fine. Any closing remarks that anybody would like to get off the chests?
Well, should we? I don't know. What were your thoughts about further research, Gary? Given what we've talked about so far,
I think it's good. Maybe we can say Sundays. Via the group chat that I created, we can just throw out topics that we would like. If anyone wants to do research, internet or otherwise, internet is not the only way to do research. There are actual physical books. I don't know if you guys remember, those do exist. There are actual human beings. You can go find, go search your city and find other people who are not, doing the robot thing. Like there are things we can do. And then at the end of the week, on Sunday we can talk about whatever we discovered.
Are you saying try and meet other people? Yeah, the town I'm at it's very sleepy. That's not going to happen.
However you like to do it, but we can throw out topics on Sunday and then go do what we need to do during the week and come back with discoveries.
Yeah.
Sound good? Andrea, do you have a voice?
Do I?
Yeah. You finally hear it right when we're about to stop.
I figured I would make it work right when it was over.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed hearing everybody, listening to the stories.
Yeah.
I don't know if Omar got to finish his DMT story, but I really wanted to finish hearing that. I didn't get to get the end of it.
He did finish it, so if you watch the whole episode, you'll see it.
Okay, I'll watch it later.
Yeah. Andrea, meet Monica. Monica, meet Andrea.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Andrea.
I can see.
I guess
I see her.
Monica is our number 10, I think, is it?
Maybe.
If she decides to continue. Otherwise, any other comments? Closing comments?
Thank you, everybody. This was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes, and thanks for those email addresses there that Omar gave. That's wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And I guess I'll email you. All right, thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna be doing
Alright.
another one tonight at 9, and I don't know if I'm gonna continue doing that every Sunday because it's gonna be a lot. But for now, I have another one at 9 with Daniel and Gayatri.
Well, what I was thinking, Gary, was that the changes that we make now, they carry. You're punching above your weight, because I heard that between now and 2020, the matrix is particularly malleable, and if we want to make changes in our life, it's best to do it now before that time, because we've got a time limit, don't we? Really?
Depending.
Kind of. But in the next year and a half, is the best time to make changes or improvements in one's life and so on, right?
Samir, it's worth mentioning, and others just very, very briefly, the Mayan calendar 2012, 2020, the Gregorian calendar is 8 years offset. So 2020 corresponds to 2012, and that's really what that's about. It's just the completion of one more complete circle. We're in the middle, there's the circle. The time going around the circle is the circle, and our relationship to the outer perimeter of the circle defines our relationship in ratio. The circle inscribes the ratio, and we are that thing.
So you're saying 2020 is 2012 by a slightly different count?
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Okay. I
by
got you.
that calendar, but by this calendar, I still think that there's within paintings and so on. I can send you the research if you're interested, Dr. Beams, on what's going to be happening next year. It should be quite interesting.
I think it will be interesting. I generally don't buy into any external things, but I do watch them and pay attention. But yeah, 2020, clear vision. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the chat or later on next week, whatever. Okay.
All right, man.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right. That was long. Late do. Let me just save this real quick.
Well, it must have been appropriate energy for it then.
Yeah, it was
That
good. Yeah,
happened.
yeah. So this would be.
I'm in the same. I'm the only one living here, and I'm in the same realm as you guys. So the energy is going to be, a good foundation for it.
Mm-hmm.